Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Eruvin. We are up to Perek Gimel Mishnah Tet. Today's Mishnah should be Leilun Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbay ben Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam Began Eden, Amen. The Mishnah cites another dispute that relates to the question of whether the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah are considered a single continuous period. Being the first day of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah is also Rosh Chodesh. The Mishnah discusses how this fact should be mentioned in the prayers on Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Dosa ben Halkina Somer, Rabbi Dosa ben Halkina says, "Ha'over lefnei hateva b'yom tov shel Rosh Hashanah omer," the one who leads the prayers on the first Yom Tov, meaning the first day of Rosh Hashanah, says in his prayer, "Hachalitzenu Hashem Elokeinu et Yom Rosh HaChodesh hazeh im hayom im lemachar." Strengthen us, Hashem, our God, on this day of Rosh Chodesh, whether it is today or tomorrow. Meaning the Rav explains, if Rosh Chodesh is today, strengthen us today in its merit. If it is tomorrow, strengthen us tomorrow in its merit. Ulmachar omer im hayom im emesh. And on the next day he says, strengthen us, Hashem, our God, on this day of Rosh Chodesh, whether it is today or yesterday, meaning if Rosh Chodesh is today, strengthen us today. If it was yesterday, we already prayed for strength. Now the prayer leader should also say the same prayer for Rosh Hashanah itself, meaning he should also say, strengthen us on this day of remembrance, meaning Rosh Hashanah, whether it is today or tomorrow, etc., as the Rambam explains in his commentary to the Mishnah. Now, although this prayer is said with respect to Rosh Hashanah as well, Rabbi Dosa mentions only Rosh Chodesh in the Mishnah because he wants to stress that Rosh Chodesh must be specified even on Rosh Hashanah, a point with which the sages disagree, as the notes bring down. Now, Rabbi Dosa is making 2 points the commentaries explain. A, Rosh Chodesh is mentioned in the prayers of Rosh Hashanah, and B, it must be made clear that only one of the 2 days is Rosh Chodesh / Rosh Hashanah, because otherwise the prayer would appear to be a lie, as the Tosfot Yom Tov explains. Now, Rabbi Dosa maintains that each day of Rosh Hashanah is treated as sacred only out of doubt. Therefore, it would be false to imply that either day is definitely sacred. Now, the sages agree with both points. V'lo udu lo chachamim, but the sages did not agree with him, and the commentators explain, in the opinion of the sages, Rosh Chodesh is not mentioned separately. Instead, one says the day of remembrance, which includes both Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Chodesh. Now, the Torah refers to both Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Chodesh as times of remembrance. So by saying the day of remembrance, you include both. Furthermore, when referring to the day of remembrance, one should not say whether today or tomorrow, because the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah are a single long period of holiness. Again, the Rambam explains in his commentary to the Mishnah, and the Rav tells us, V'alcha ki chachamim, the halacha follows the opinion of the sages. And that is in Rabotai of chapter 3, Mishnah 9. We continue now with Perek Daled, Mishnah Aleph. Now the following chapter discusses someone who was outside his city or his tchum on Shabbat, and the chapter begins with the person who left his 2,000 amah boundary on Shabbat. Mi sheotziuhu ovdei kochavim, one who was forcibly taken out of his tchum on Shabbat by idolaters, or ruach ra, or who wandered out of his tchum after being possessed by an evil spirit that made him temporarily lose his senses, which the commentators explain, when he recovered his senses, he realized that he had left the tchum. Now the Rambam in his commentary explains that the term evil spirit is used by the Mishnah to describe any disorder that causes a person to lose his senses. The Mishnah continues, En lo ela arba amot. He has only 4 amot at his new location in which he is permitted to move, because the Rav explains, the commentators explain, one who leaves his tchum even unwillingly must remain in his place until the end of Shabbat. Since the place of a person consists of 4 amot, the space that he occupies when lying down, this means that he has 4 amot in which to move about, as the Gemara explains on page 48a in Masechet Eruvin. Now, in Mishnah 5, we will discuss how these 4 amot are mentioned. The Mishnah continues, Hechaziru kilu lo yatsa. If the idolaters or the evil spirit returned him to any point within his tchum, it is as if he had never left, and he may once again move throughout the 2,000 amot he acquired at the beginning of Shabbat. But the Rav says if he returned to his tchum intentionally, he is penalized and may not move out of his 4 amot. And similarly, if he left his tchum intentionally, he is penalized even if he was returned forcibly. Now, the Mishnah continues by recording a dispute If the idolaters or evil spirit took him out of his tchum to another city, which is surrounded by walls, nitanu, badir, or basahar, or they put him in a pen or a coral, which are enclosures that are larger than 4 amot used to hold animals outside of, if they put him in this pen or coral outside of his tchum. Rabban Gamliel veRabbi Elazar ben Azariah omrim, Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah say, Me'alech et kula, he may move about the entire area in which he was placed, because an enclosed area is treated like 4 amot, as the Rav explains. Now the place of a person consists of just 4 amot only in an open area, but when one is in an enclosed area, the entire enclosure is his place, and he may therefore move about the entire area. And Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah are lenient only for a person who left his tchum unwillingly. One who left his tchum intentionally is restricted to 4 amot, even if he is now in an enclosed area. And Maran speaks about this more in Shulchan Aruch in Chelek Orach Chaim, chapter 405, halacha 6. The Mishnah continues, Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva omrim, but Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva say, En lo ela 4 amot, he has only 4 amot in which he is allowed to move, because in their view, an enclosure is treated as 4 amot only for a person who began Shabbat there, and therefore one who began Shabbat in a pen or a coral measures his 2,000 amat tchum from outside of it, but one placed on Shabbat in a pen or coral outside his tchum has only 4 amot in which he may move, and this is how the Rav explains it in his first explanation. The Mishnah continues now. Maaseh shebao mi perandisin. It once happened that these 4 Tanaim came by ship from the city of Brandisin. Their ship arrived in port before Shabbat, but before they had a chance to disembark, Shabbat began. V'ifliga sefinatam bayam, and their ship then was driven out to sea to a point beyond the tchum of the city. Now, the Felt Yisrael explains, a storm arose and drove the ship out to sea, and since they were in the port of the city when Shabbat began, the tchum of the city became their tchum. Rabban Gamliel veRabbi Elazar ben Azariah ilchu et kula. Although they were now beyond their tchum, Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah walked through the entire ship, in line with their view that one who is in an enclosed area may walk throughout the enclosure. Now the Rav explains the ship's deck was enclosed by the walls of the ship, since they were blown out to sea. This case is similar to one who was forcibly removed from his tchum and placed in a pen or coral outside of his tchum, that they hold you can walk in the entire enclosure. Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva lo zazu me-4 amot, but Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva did not move from the 4 amot in which they were standing when the ship left the tchum, sheratzu la'achmer al atzman, because they wanted to be strict with themselves, in line with their view that even in an enclosed area, one never has more than the 4 amot outside of his tchum. Now, according to Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva, one may not walk more than 4 amot on a stationary ship that moved outside his tchum, just as one who is in a pen has only 4 amot. However, by letter of the law, one is permitted to walk throughout a moving ship, because with each passing movement and less time than it takes to walk 4 amot, he is carried by the ship to a new place and given a new 4 amot area in which to walk. Now, these Tanaim nevertheless acted stringently and remained in their place even while the ship was moving, because they were worried that the ship might suddenly stop, and then, not realizing that the ship is stationary, they would continue walking. So they were strict on themselves. And the Rav does tell us, V'alacha ki Rabban Gamliel v'Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha follows Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that you would be allowed to walk throughout the entire ship, again in line of their view that one who is in an enclosed area may walk throughout the entire enclosure. And that is in Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.